you're all welcome to tonight's COVID business seminar. I got a WhatsApp from the Dean a little earlier today about how these seminars have been featured in the European, is it the European Management Development Association?
Yeah, European Foundation for Management and Development.
Yeah, they are related to EQUIS, right? They are the ones who are working with.
Yeah, they are the EQUIS entity, yeah.
Exactly. So we are trying to get EQUIS accreditation. We've gone through some sort of mentoring process with this institution, and they did a profiling of business schools on the continent to try and understand those who are putting out some kind of thought pieces on the COVID phenomenon, and sort of answering with some intellectual input. And they didn't send me the Cobuss seminar as one thing that was featured. I felt very proud, and so we are very happy to have you all tonight. Interestingly, Mr. Dean, the class coincides with my international business seminar. So my MSc International Business students are here. That's why you have the famous Chief Tano, the Calabash man, and the beer drinker in the class as well. So it's a very, 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 very celebrated class with all sorts of interesting people here.
Yeah.
So I want to welcome Dr. Madichie and Dr. Mogaji. You are not new to our team. You've come on these sorts of seminars before, and we are particularly happy to welcome you again tonight. So in the spirit of brevity being the soul of wit, we are going to start at 6:11, and we'll give Nnamdi some 30 to 45 minutes to talk. Whatever happens by 7, we should wrap so that Dr. Mogaji can come in. But the shorter, the better. The shorter, the sweeter. So I wish you all Godspeed. Dr. Mogaji, your class. No, Dr. Madichie, your class, please. Dr. Mogaji, you take off after. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Hinson, the famous and distinguished Professor Hinson with an entrepreneurial mindset. Your department has been very fluid. Even before we knew how to spell the word COVID, you have been entrepreneurial in the Department of Marketing and Entrepreneurship. Starting with the Distinguished Marketing Practitioner Seminar Series to the one before this one, I'm not too sure. I've lost track of the serial entrepreneurialism that has been housed in the business school, and especially in your department. Yes, I was in Accra just before the lockdown. Thank God I wasn't captured and quarantined. I took off in February, and on getting back to the UK, there was lockdown in March. Right. So what I was thinking about when I was approached, probably about 48 hours ago, to do a talk on something I was more familiar with, which was in my comfort zone, creative industries in Africa, which was the title of my presentation while I was in Accra, talking to your postgraduate students, when I met that DJ and his manager in your doctoral class. Very entrepreneurial. I tell you guys, listen carefully, yeah? The Department of Marketing and Entrepreneurship is very entrepreneurial. I've never met a practicing real-life DJ and his manager in the same class, in a department, doing a doctoral degree program. That was very insightful. So I decided to go for the unusual territory, which is African integration. The reason I decided to go down that route is that in my entire life, I've never been engaged in webinars. I've never heard about Zoom until this lockdown. So this lockdown is a blessing in disguise, so trust me. So I have attended numerous webinars. I have interacted with bigwigs in policy. And we're talking about bigwigs in policy from the from UNCTAD, United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, through the Economic Community of Africa. Is that what it is? ECA, the ICSB, and World Bank, as well as many of the other NGOs that talk about integration. So that's why I decided to tell Professor Justice Baole and Professor Robert Hinson that I want to go into uncharted territories. And you know what? Interestingly, this was the top. I focused, my PhD was on ECOWAS. And when I registered for my PhD at the Sheffield Hallam University in the United Kingdom, which is now AFCFTA accredited, I'm pleased to hear you guys are going for EFMD accreditation. But at the Sheffield Hallam University, I told them, look, I want to talk about Africa. As a matter of fact, it started from when I was doing my MBA at the University of Sheffield as well in the late 90s. And I said I want to do something on Africa. But you see, the problem was, it's not that these guys are not particularly interested. They are, of course, they are interested. But it's all about having the capacity to supervise a doctorate or even a postgraduate master's in anything concerning Africa. Africa was not trending at the time. This is now the time. The scramble for Africa has taken on a different trajectory in recent times. So, based on that, what I'm going to do now is to look at some of the key highlights based on my PhD thesis, which I ditched and abandoned after I successfully defended my viva. I was talking about regional integration in Africa for my PhD. But after that, once I just got that title doctor, I decided to move on to other things that were more interesting to me, which is entrepreneurship. But let's leave that. That's a story for another day. What I'm going to do now is try to share my screen so you can see my presentation, and I'm going to keep it very short and brief. And please pardon me because this is a bit personal. I have a personal issue with the policy makers, especially as far as African integration is concerned. And that is going to be the focus of my talk this evening. Where are we? Share. Right. Can you see my screen?
Super.
Right.
Nice.
Right. Okay. Let me try and get it to. That's more like it. Right. Okay. Can you see my PowerPoint presentation?
Super.
Right. There's a story here. There's a very long story here, my brothers and sisters. As you can see at the bottom left of the screen, you can see Nnamdi University, Oka. I was appointed visiting professor at that university in their business school, which is called UNIZIC Business School, in September 2019. Interestingly, sometimes I tend to worry when I put that logo and I say, Professor of Marketing, Nnamdi University. People begin to wonder, is that your father's university or something? Nnamdi. These are two different trajectories. Please. I was named after Nnamdi Azikiwe, which was one of the first presidents. These are people that go with the likes of Julius Nyerere, Kenneth Kaunda, and
Modibo Keita.
No, I'm thinking about Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah. Yeah? These are the guys that negotiated. They negotiated. They were not throwing stones at the oppressors at the time or the colonial powers at the time. These were people that got the Western education, knew the ins and outs, the rules and regulations, and their rights, and negotiated the colonialists out of Africa. So based on that, the whole notion of African integration began to take root. So these are the forebearers of what the Africans would call our forefathers that made that sacrifice for we to be where we are today. If they had not been present, we would not be Zooming, we would not be doing this. This meeting would not have happened in the first place. So what I decided to go for is that uncharted territory. But that takes me a little bit, it takes me about 20 years back to my thesis, my PhD thesis. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. I'm still a young man. It hasn't been that long since I got my PhD. But you see, the point is, this is African integration. So my question now is, what's COVID got to do with it? So that is going to be the focus of my presentation. I've got about 250 slides, but I will probably just stop at 20 slides. Moderator, please give me a heads up when it's 3 minutes to the end of my talk. So, this is my story. I attended Ahmadu Bello University. Ahmadu Bello is one of the Saudanas and one of the leading leaders of Nigeria back in the days. Sir Ahmadu Bello, before the Biafran War in Nigeria, was somebody that was asked to allocate land for a premier university in northern Nigeria. And I think he got a rifle and decided to fire that rifle. He said, from where I'm standing, I'm firing this rifle to where the bullet lands, yeah, is your land. Build a university across that land, from where the bullet took off to where it ended. So that was Ahmadu Bello University. Ahmadu Bello, nobody talks about Ahmadu Bello University and says Nigeria. It is expected that you should know when you hear Ahmadu Bello University. So that is my alma mater, where I got my first degree, BSc in economics. While I was at ABU, Ahmadu Bello University, ABU, there was this gentleman, very soft-spoken, Professor Oka Ezenwe. You see, one thing with Africans and those in Africa that probably haven't, thank goodness, times have changed, because when I was in Africa, before I left Africa, there was no internet. Yeah, we used to go to business centers to make phone calls and you name that. I got on a plane coming to the UK, and someone was asking me for email address, and I was going like, what the heck are you talking about? Yeah, so but that was back in the days. So basically, MTN and the rest of them, mobile technology, internet, etc., and whatever you want to call it, took roots behind my back after I'd left the shores of motherland, Africa. So coming back to Professor Oka Ezenwe, he was the dean. He actually taught me economics, development economics, very erudite scholar, but we took him for granted. What do we know? I think it's more like it's something we look back upon with some degree of shame, because we didn't realize what we had at the time. I'll come back to that particular point about Professor Oka Ezenwe. Please make a note of that name, Professor UKA Ezenwe, Oka Ezenwe. Now, he gave me a reference on my graduation because I decided to undertake my postgraduate degree in the United Kingdom to come and do my MBA. I had about 5 different admission letters. I was spoiled for choice. I didn't really know where to go to study my MBA. And I remember when going for the visa, they said, oh, okay, you've come for visa, you have to be invited to an interview to tell us how you qualify to undertake an MBA in the United Kingdom. And when I went back, came back the next day, and the lady that was processing the visa was making notes while I was talking. And she was saying, stop, I need to make some notes. I said, that's tough luck. I can't stop. When I begin to flow, I don't stop. Yeah, so catch what you can. And she said, just go away, come back for your visa in the next 2 hours. So that was it. And that's how I got into the United Kingdom. So Professor Oka Ezenwe again, I only found out on coming to the UK, that he was actually a graduate of the University of St. Andrews in Scotland. University of St. Andrews is not somewhere you just walk into. This is a university that has made royals. Prince William and of course Kate Middleton met. They met there. Correct me if I'm wrong. Well, at the end of the day, that's where the royalty met, and of course got married and became the Duke and Duchess of is it Sussex? Yeah. So moving on from there, I tried to focus my MBA dissertation on ECOWAS at the University of Sheffield, which is AFCFTA accredited. Believe you me, at that time they did not have the capacity. I decided to go down the road to Sheffield Hallam University. There are 2 universities in Sheffield. So I went to University of Sheffield Hallam University, which actually took the title of Sheffield Business School at the time, compared to the more traditional University of Sheffield that was still Sheffield University Management School, SUMS, SUMS. So when I got there and I decided to embark on a PhD, I said, since I didn't get the opportunity to work on ECOWAS or anything Africa for my MBA dissertation, I'll focus on financial services sector in United Kingdom. I want to go back to my roots. I want to explore and contribute to African development. That's always been my passion. That's why you begin to wonder why I'm always thinking about zooming in, flying in and out of Accra at will. Thank you, my hosts, University of Ghana. So, talking about ECOWAS, when I realized that my former lecturer and former dean had actually published a book on ECOWAS in the 1980s in the United Kingdom, when Africa was not particularly being taken seriously, I decided to use my informal networks to reach out to this guy. I reached out to him. Through those informal networks, I got some very interesting insights. I interrogated and summarized his book and questioned him about his views, whether his views had changed a decade on. Apparently, they hadn't really changed. There are so many issues. One of them was a lack of political will. So while I was exploring the West 1980s book that was published in 1980s, I realized that Professor Ibrahim Gambari, who is currently chief of staff to the President of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, had actually also written a book in 1991. Ibrahim Gambari is a very interesting character because I thought he was going to retire from the United Nations. Since the day I knew how to spell my name, the man has been at United Nations in New York, flying the flag of Africa and Nigeria. Very interesting guy, erudite scholar. I'm not too sure. I cannot make any claims about his political contributions to the troubled economy in Nigeria as of today. So that sets the background. Right, so moving on from there, if you look at the screen now, you will see something called Africa Integration Day. So I was talking about webinars, and I was telling you that how much I've zoomed in the last 3 months of the lockdown. I've been zooming. I'm Zoom fatigued. I've attended numerous seminars, workshops, CPDs. I've even got certificates, online courses, short courses, etc., etc. So many things going on. But what's interesting, and this happened after I'd accepted to talk about African integration a couple of days ago. Today is the 9th. African Integration Day was apparently on the 7th, about 2 days ago. I don't know how many of you know about that or aware of it, but I will share some links. Now, that was a very interesting conversation, interesting webinar and discussion session, where the big wigs, people that make those decisions on things that pertain to our lives and livelihoods in Africa, debated some of the key challenges, the milestones achieved, and possibly the future of African integration. So you can see from that particular screen that we have the African Union involved in this whole conversation. Moving on from there, what's trending now is the AFCFTA, AFTA. So let's go into a bit of a description or background of AFTA. So basically, the Assembly of Heads of States of Governments in February 2020 in Addis Ababa decided to move AFTA forward. And that was where the wrangling. You see, the problem with Africans, when you talk about African integration, I begin to wonder, this is ironical, because we're so disintegrated, we're so parochial, selfish, and of course, fragmented. Of course, what do you expect? What do you expect when you're having deals and negotiations with people outside of the continent? If you cannot agree and present a common front, what do you expect, or how do you expect people from outside to view you, obviously, many of them will be rubbing their hands in glee. They'll be taking advantage of the fact that you're not together, which throws away the whole concept of stronger together. So why talk about African integration when you cannot have a collective voice to address your problems? I've heard different terminologies or slogans in terms of African solutions to African problems. But I think the problem with Africa in terms of solving African problems is that Africans are part of the problem. And that's where my concern and contentious proposition come from. You do not blame anyone else for your problem when you know fully well that you are actually part of that problem. So African integration, here we are. Now, before I move on from that slide, there's a link there. Click on that link and it will give you details and insights into the background, histories, and of course the milestones of how the African Continental Free Trade Area came about. One more interesting point I need to mention here is that the Secretary General that was appointed is His Excellency, H.E., His Excellency Wamkela Mene. The guy is a youth, I'm much older than him. But something that is interesting that he's South African. And something else that is interesting is that the Secretariat is supposed to be in Accra, in Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, can anybody tell me where the Secretariat is? Is it there? Is it there?
Yes, please.
The Secretariat is here. It's here.
Is it occupied? Apart from security guards, is it occupied? Is it a functional secretariat right now?
I think it was supposed to take effect sometime.
Supposed to be. Thank you very much. Let me move on. We'll come back to that point in the Q&A. Supposed to be is the operative word here. So the story goes on. And we're looking at some of the members, and of course, the Kigali coming up. 1994, Kigali wasn't anywhere to be. It wasn't really anywhere to be at a point in time. We know about the genocide, the violence, and the political instability. It cuts across Africa. Come think of it. Even Nigeria is not spared. Yeah, especially northern Nigeria, where I did my national service, the headquarters of Boko Haram. I was there for a full year, serving my country. So there's so much political instability. There's so much crisis. So that is the story of after and some of the key elements about it. Now, something that's interesting about this particular slide is about the ratification. How many countries do we have in Africa? About 54 countries. And how many ratified? 22. It's not even 50%. What are we talking about here? Are we together or what are we talking about African integration? African integration is a voluntary exercise. People sign up, people agree. African solutions to African problems. Why do you have to beg countries to ratify treaties for the betterment of the continent? Let me just move on to the next slide. So the title of my presentation had something 4.0, which is, I just put it there just to jazz up stuff. I don't know anything about technology. What is 4.0? The point, when I was talking about 4.0, I was referring to the fourth industrial revolution. And of course, that's where all the Zooming business came in. When I was listening to these guys talk, asking them questions. You know, when you do Zoom and webinars, people post questions and everything, and you choose what to answer. None of my questions were answered, I'm not keeping quiet. I'm passionate about this thing, not because I did a PhD in economic integration in Africa, but because I don't like talk. Talk is cheap. Talk, you need to walk the talk. And that is my clarion call to policymakers, and especially universities. Universities to champion that cause and be a lobby and instruct policy and direct policy. We're talking about COVID. Let's come back to that particular subject. We're talking about COVID. Who is reporting? Who is reporting policies, social distances? Who is devising the 2 meter rule, 1.5, and revising to 1 meter to 0 meter? Johns Hopkins University, Imperial College, University of Oxford. Please name one African university that's actually joined the ranks for policy making to the CDCs in Africa. What's going on? I cannot speak for every country, but not everybody in government is educated or enlightened or has seen the 4 walls of a university. What are African universities doing in terms of informing policy in matters of expertise? Let me just move on to the next slide. I'm just giving you things to think about and the passion. Sometimes I tend to get a bit emotional about these things. It's annoying. It's just annoying. It's just annoying because every time I go onto LinkedIn, we're celebrating one African country or the other having their 50th anniversary. 50 years, you're no longer a baby, for crying out loud. My people will say life begins at 40. And sometimes my people will also say a fool at 40 is a fool forever. If you're 40 years as a country and you cannot be self-sufficient, then I think you're a fool forever. Let me just use that phrase. I'm talking about my people. It's not me talking here. I'm just looking at those sayings I grew up hearing. So, my presentation in terms of theoretical anchor focuses on this particular report. Very interesting report. Look at the signatures there. Just look at the signatures at the bottom. Look at the left side of the screen at the bottom. Musa Faki Muhammad, Chairperson of African Union Commission, signed. Dr. Akiwumi Adesina, President of African Development Bank Group, signed. Vera Songwe, very interesting lady. I saw at one of the webinars about 2 days ago. The Undersecretary of the United Nations, Executive Secretary of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. These are powerful people, very enlightened. I don't particularly know very much about Musa Faki Muhammad. But you see, Akiwumi Adesina and Vera Songwe, I know have some very excellent educational pedigree. Now that report is African Regional Integration Index report 2019. Do you know what? It's only the second time. This is the second report. We're talking about African regional integration. ECOWAS was formed in 1975. Many other African regional integration stuff happened prior to ECOWAS founding. And 2019 was the second report. I beg your pardon, second report. Guess when the first one was? 2016. Now, something that's interesting, if you look at the right-hand column of this particular screen, it tells you something about the index or the indices. And look at the first part of it. It says the 2019 African Regional Index indicates that overall, the level of integration on the continent is low. Level of integration on the continent is low. We're talking about in 2019. That was just last year. This was before COVID. Now, COVID has reversed our lives, though. We know that. This was before our lives were reversed. Level of integration on the continent is low, with an average score of 0.327. Now, this is on a scale of 0 to 1. So I decided to focus this particular conversation around this particular report. Bearing in mind what I had to go and dig up my PhD thesis. It's online. That was 2002. That was about 18 years ago. I dug you up. Most of the stuff I was talking about at that particular point in time in my analysis and interrogation literature, nothing has changed. 20 years on. And going on from that particular, the excerpts I picked up from this particular report, is that Africa is poorly integrated on productive. Listen carefully. What are we integrating? What is Africa integrating? It is poor on productive and infrastructural dimensions. And it tells you which are the key aspects, forming the foundations upon which other dimensions of regional integration depend to function. I'm just trying to process. I'm trying to process. If you don't have the foundation, what are you talking about? What integration are you talking about? Smartphone, Huawei, 3G, 5G, you're wasting your time. This is all rubbish as far as I'm concerned. You need the foundation. I was in Ghana when ECOWAS was challenging members of UMOA for harassing France and telling them they're no longer interested in CFA francs. The Anglophone West African countries told the Francophone West African countries in UMOA that they pulled the trigger too quick. Then I was hearing stuff about adoption of a common currency. What's common currency? Come on now. What is the infrastructure on the ground? What do you have in place? What are you talking about common currency for? Common currency. The United Kingdom has never adopted the euro. You are a member of the European Union. And now there's been Brexit. When I was finishing off my PhD thesis on ECOWAS, Mauritania walked away. Why? Because it did not face any penalties. Britain is trying to walk away from European Union, but it's going to pay a price. Can any African country be forced to pay a price for exiting a common, a customs union or money, not even monetary union, economic community, or whatever the case is? Whatever trading bloc or trading arrangement there are there locking institutions? These are some of the things I covered in my PhD thesis. And going back to my mentor, Professor Uka Ezenwe, and of course, another mentor, which is Professor Ibrahim Gambari, that's written about ECOWAS in the 90s. Now, there's something that's interesting. Look at the last quote there. It says the index shows that 20 African countries are performing well, while 25 are low performing. It's not even 50%, 20 to 25, low performing. Now, that performance is something else I looked at because I had to drill down into this report. This report is quite instructive. I love this report. I'm going to build on it. I'm going to do more work on it. I'm just putting this together for this particular presentation because there's so much that's in there that has been fully explained. Now, the first point I want you to bear in mind as I move on to the next slide is that the index ranges from 0 to 1. If you are 1, that means you're fully integrated. If you're anything at 0.7 and above, you're very well on your way there. If you're 0.5 or below, then there's no integration. But the question is, let me pause. Let me just get to the next slide before I ask that question, because it's a very instructive question, and I observed that on my further interrogation of this particular report. This report is very instructive. However, not very well articulated and explanatory. It's not something you can use to confront policymakers. Now, part of that report, just look at this. I decided to label these fractures. These are fractures because this kind of endorses the divide and rule narrative in Africa. The splinters. In that report, figure 2 shows you those. You remember when I talked about 0 to 1? It shows you that Côte d'Ivoire, if you look at, can you see my cursor? Côte d'Ivoire, if you take it down here, is about 0.6465, which means that Côte d'Ivoire is very well, looking like it's very integrated. within ECOWAS. But then again, I'm looking at there and I was wondering, I've never heard about Community of Saharan States. So, okay, so Cote d'Ivoire is a member of ECOWAS, and Cote d'Ivoire is also a member of the CENSAD, which is Community of Saharan States. Look at the map of Africa here. These are the countries in that particular community. Can you see them? Which encompasses all of ECOWAS countries. And I'm wondering, hello, how are we doing this calculation? Cote d'Ivoire's score here, is it based on ECOWAS or based on CENSAD? Why do we have Cote d'Ivoire here and Cote d'Ivoire there? What's going on? Why are we fragmenting and cannibalizing? How many regional integration trading blocks can we seriously have? Cote d'Ivoire is here, Burkina Faso is here, Senegal is here. Look at here, Cote d'Ivoire is here, Senegal is here, Burkina Faso is here. Look at every country here. Most of them are here. Why are we having two different things? So if these guys have a common external tariff against this particular block here, and many of the members here are there, what is the point? Why are we wasting resources? What's going on? It gets worse. Watch the next slide. Now on this next slide, you're looking at others. We are still talking about AFCFTA. Yeah, the AFTA. Now we're looking at SADC. We're looking at EAC. We're looking at ECCAS. What is ECCAS? Member countries. Okay, you have Congo, Republic of Congo, Cameroon, Rwanda, Equatorial Guinea, Sao Tome and Principe, Central African Republic, Chad, Burundi, and Angola. Okay, fair enough, fine. Now look at SADC. Yeah, look at SADC, look at COMESA. Now we have how many countries? Look at the countries here. Map them against the countries here. Yeah, in particular, let's look at the EAC and COMESA. Yes, we have Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda. We have Kenya, Rwanda, where are we? Where's Uganda? And Uganda. They're all here. Now look at the arrows that I decided to draw last night or in the wee hours of this morning. Yeah, look at the arrows I decided to draw. Watch this arrow. 1, 2, and 3. Look at Kenya's position. Under COMESA, you're talking about being regionally integrated. Under COMESA is closer to 0.6. Kenya again, under IGAD. What is IGAD? What's going on here? What's the difference between IGAD and what we have here or there? Is the fragmentation. There's multiplicity of integration efforts. There's role duplication. There's loose allegiances and confused allegiances in African integration. African integration obviously needs a redefinition and restructuring and major reforms. For some good reason, I'm glad that AFTA has been stopped for the time being, until we understand exactly what it is that we're doing as Africans. Talking about African integration, we know clear sense of direction, clear sense of purpose, objectives, or drive. That's my personal opinion. And I think it's very well informed. Now, let's come back to this. Look at the score for Kenya here. Score for Kenya is very close to 0.6 here. Here is further away from 0.6, moving towards 0.64. And here, guess what? Look at within EAC. Kenya in its natural habitat is approaching 0.8. So why is Kenya in EAC, IGAD, and COMESA? I'm confused. I don't know about you. But I'm rattled by the whole thing, and I'm not particularly pleased by it. Right, okay, let's go on to the next slide. Sorry, I'm just trying to move the stuff away from my... Okay, so the next slide is about my closing thoughts. And look at the key points, bullet points I've tried to highlight. Okay, we're currently in July. Apparently, AFCFTA was supposed to be in Accra, and I'm glad to hear from Accra residents that the building is there. But the building is not AFCFTA. It's not the building we're celebrating. Where are the occupants of the building? What's happening? So basically, the AFCFTA remains work in progress. And there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee that the momentum will not be lost. Because when I listened to Wamkele Mene, the Secretary General, I was listening to him like you're listening to me right now. We had that conversation, that interaction. And the man opened his mouth and said that nothing will happen until 2021. How dare you? (2021). We're just in second half of 2020. And you have decided that 2020 it can be deleted from history. Now look at ECOWAS. You see, the ECOWAS thing is very interesting because one of my colleagues just came with a project. He said, okay, I know your PhD was on ECOWAS. I'm writing something on ECOWAS. Can we do something together? So I signed up. My problem is I don't know how to say no. My hands are so full. I don't even know what project I'm doing. I have about 200 projects going on at the same time. So ECOWAS, Professor Justice, don't even smile there. We have projects, so our deadline has passed.
The deadline has passed.
But we are still hanging. We are still there. I'm just warning you. So what is ECOWAS? What is the achievement of ECOWAS? Peacekeeping. Is ECOWAS, okay, for the benefit of those that don't understand what the economic community of West African states, economic community. But all ECOWAS achievements have been in peacekeeping and ECOMOG and all those. What is ECOWAS? Seriously. And apart from that, the track record in peacekeeping across West Africa has been abysmal, to say the least. Liberians, in particular, are not particularly happy with Nigerians as a result of the ECOMOG. Instead of keeping and maintaining the peace in Liberia, it has been a series of impunity, plunder, you name it. And I fully agree with them. Because people actually lobby to go to conflict areas. How much time do I have? Did somebody just speak?
Sorry, I think it's an intruder. Sorry, you can go on and try and conclude.
Okay. So yeah, I'm just concluding now.
We will have some Q&A as well.
Yeah, okay. I'll conclude in about 3 minutes. So, using ECOWAS as my case illustration, I made this point. I wrote this about a few hours ago. As the ambition of transiting into a monetary union gathers momentum, policymakers, and especially those in ECOWAS, and after by extension, need to be mindful of the shaky structures upon which the whole narrative of African integration is built upon. Very important. Yes, there's a Dakar, Senegalese-based Central Bank for West African States, which was initially backed by France. And of course, when France became a member of the European Union, it wangled its way and ensured that the European Union backed up the CFA francs. When I did my national service in Nigeria, in a border town between Nigeria and Cameroon, it was interesting to see the scramble of the Nigerian currency, the Naira, in preference to CFA francs. So it didn't come as a surprise when the CFA, when the Francophone West African states said they are no longer interested in the backing of the European Union of the CFA franc. They wanted to ditch it. Because they call the shots from Europe. So you want African solutions for African problems? Make sure you're not part of that problem. So the next few slides will just highlight some of the recent news events about some interesting countries I came across. But before that, let's have a quick look at this particular quote that I picked up from that report. It says, now that we're moving forward the implementation of AFTA, it is time for quantum leaps. Quantum leaps, don't make me laugh. What quantum leaps? You're crawling. You've been crawling for the past 50 years. Despite the realization and recognition and acknowledgement that regional integration is the glue that will make that happen, you have chosen to look the other way. And when I say you, I'm talking about African leaders, African policymakers, and those championing the cause of African integration. Some of the key reasons here, or the key highlights here, is that the whole African integration narrative has become a situation of the absurdly normal. These are situations where the normally absurd have become absurdly normal. The title of one of my papers I published in my early years as an academic. What we're doing is going back to the future. Number one, we have seen the multiplicity of trading blocks. We have seen the fragmentation, and for the hidden agendas, there are so many, which you will see in images in the slides after this particular one. The second part here is talking about locking mechanisms or locking institutions. Ghana can wake up tomorrow and say we're no longer part of ECOWAS and face no penalties. Free entry and exits is what characterizes regional economic blocks or regional integration in the entire Africa. Mauritania left when I was still doing my PhD. No penalties. Morocco is seeking to join ECOWAS. How can Morocco be seeking to join ECOWAS when it has no border connections with any ECOWAS country? And it's also part of the Arab Maghreb Union. I published a book chapter called Commonomics with Professor Jerry Kolo of the American University of Sharjah, where we're looking at, we mapped it against the Obanomics or Obamanomics. Everybody has his own nomics. Every president, I think the Ghanaian president should have something nomics linked to his name, because he has also come up with some very illustrative economic models to advance the Ghanaian economy. So every leader comes up with stuff, but we looked at it as commonomics. We looked at it, we said that some of these issues confronting African countries are based on common sense. Well, as one of my teachers used to say, common sense is not common. Trust me, my people, common sense is not common. If it was common, everybody would have it. But sometimes when you look at people's attitudes and behaviors, you begin to wonder, hang on a minute, don't you have any common sense? It's not common. So the question now is whether African integration. Where do we go from here? My next slides as a wrap up will reflect on some of news pages that captures the fragmentation of African brotherhood that links to elements of those hidden agendas and personal interests. I'll be looking at Kenya, Egypt, and South Africa for very interesting reasons, and that is where my presentation will come to an end. Now, this is a very interesting headline. The Secretary General at UNCTAD challenged his countryman. You know who this guy is? This is President Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya. Wait, I don't need to mention this guy's name. If you don't know him, just forget it. Yeah? Now, something that's interesting here is that Kenya, that same Kenya I was showing you in previous graphs, is negotiating bilateral free trade agreement to the United States. Does he have the endorsement of AFCFTA, EAC, or any other trading bloc that he belongs to? Is that allowed? Interestingly, his people are rising against him in this particular paper. The Standard is the Kenyan national daily. And he says, more lobbyists oppose Kenya-US trade talks. And look at the dates. Look at the date here, 8th of July. This was yesterday. This is not 10 years ago. This is yesterday. And we are still talking of African integration where somebody is chasing his own particular backyard deals. What's going on here? The next one, it tells you about Egypt's Mamdouh. I'm the only WTO candidate supported by AU. Look at the date again, 7th of July. This man, Africans cannot present a common voice to the international community. The World Trade Organization, WTO, says, give us a candidate. Nigeria, Benin Republic, and Egypt were in the short list. Nigeria decided to swap their candidates and brought somebody that had more clout. And the Egyptian is questioning that. If Africans cannot agree, how can outsiders agree with Africa? If you cannot agree among yourselves, what's going on? And finally, look at this one. 10th February, this is much older. South Africa wins bitter fight. Who says it was a bitter fight with Nigeria? Why? Why do we have to keep saying all this stuff? South Africa, Nigeria, yeah, giant of Africa, that wrangling has been going on for numerous years. And finally, I just wanted to share my profs, my mentor, my lecturer, and my dean when I was doing my undergraduate studies. Professor Uka Ezenwe published a book going by the title ECOWAS and Economic Integration of West Africa in 1983. How many years later? I can't do maths. Yeah, my brain has been shrunk by Guinness and the lockdown. So how many years? Sorry, what was that? How many years? 37.
37 years.
The question now is, what has changed?
Same old thing.
Nothing. So Ibrahim Gambari, Chief of Army Staff, not Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Staff to the presidency. In Nigeria, go and do your Google search or your research. The Chief of Staff, the last one that died before Gambari replaced it was Abba Kyari. Those are the guys behind the scenes that actually run the government, not the president. Buhari does not know what's happening. Tell him I said so. The Chief of Staff runs the government. This is the man that runs Nigeria now. Or his office, maybe not him, his office runs Nigeria. He has written a book on that. How many years after that? 8 years after my prof wrote the book. He is also a prof and a renowned scholar. I'm not too sure about his political and policy credentials though. But he's there. The man is an Aso Rock. So these are reviews of some of those works. Yeah? Professor Ukezenwe actually did a review of a previous work by by this gentleman here. Yeah? Before he actually, this is part of his PhD thesis on ECOWAS. And finally, look at some of those big names I was talking about in those webinars I've attended in the last 3 days. The last 3 days, high-powered webinars have been opportuned and privileged to attend and listen to people talk. And that's when I drew the conclusions that we have a problem in Africa as far as African integration is concerned. The Economic Outlook 2020 was launched in the middle of this webinar on the 7th of July. That was when the Economic Outlook for 2020 supplements was launched. I think they just slapped on amid COVID-19 because nothing in that report gives you what's on the ground in terms of reality now. So these are some of the participants which I took from my phone as part of that webinar. And you can begin to see, I mentioned Vera Songwe, UNECA, the secretary. And this is yours truly, Wamkele Mene, the Secretary General of AFCFTA. And this is Mukiza Kituyu, Secretary General of UNCTAD. I've met this guy before in Geneva at the UNCTAD headquarters in Geneva. Very interesting guy. This was the guy, I think, I don't know how I misrecording what he was saying in respect to his president's backyard or backdoor dealings with Donald Trump. He's Kenyan. He harassed and he was very brash about it. He did not mince words. I respect this man for standing up to Uhuru Kenyatta and telling that what he did was against the regional integration efforts of Africa. I will end here. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you. Thank you.
Doc. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. Very interesting.
Professor,
presentation.
are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good. I don't have a question. I probably have a provocative comment because we have a lot of marketing students here. I just have a provocative comment. In the midst of these chaos, if you like, of regional integration, lip service paying, I wonder what a marketing strategy would be for you if you were leading a company that has the objective of entering into the African market space. Think about it. Within this chaos, how do you navigate an international business agenda for your business within the African market space? Think about this. But Professor Hinson, please take over and let's go on.
Please, are there any questions from the class? I don't see anybody's hand up unless I'm missing something.
I'm not sure, but I think okay, there are hands shooting up quickly.
Okay, so who starts? I'll start with the lady. Oh, Godwin Akwa, you can start.
Okay, sir. So I would want to ask, so is it that all the leaders who are formulating these, let's say, trade partnerships, are they not aware of these problems that you're talking about? And is it that they are aware, but they're just sitting on it, not wanting to do anything about it?
Good.
Thank you, Godwin. It's a very interesting question you just asked there. These problems are inherited. They get passed on from generation to generation. Don't rock the boats. That's the name of the game in Africa. Who wants to stick their neck out and change the status quo?
But it's got to happen one way or the other, because otherwise this is going to be how it's forever going to be then.
Okay, let me throw the question back at you. Are you a student or
yes,
professor?
I am a student. Yeah. I'm a student.
You're a student, undergraduate, postgraduate?
Yeah, postgraduate. IB.
Postgraduate. This is a challenge to you guys and your colleagues. Pass this message on to your colleagues as well.
Oh, they are here. They are listening to you.
I have checked. I've been doing a lot of research on African integration since my PhD in 2002. There is less than 10 PhD theses on African integration.
Wow.
By the time we begin to get a flow or a flood of theses that question African integration and recommend strategies going forward, the policymakers might begin to take an interest.
Mm. Mm.
I don't know if does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, actually that. I think it's in line, and I think. But the thing is, you see, the other thing too with Africans, we are stubborn. We don't want to follow, even when there is research backing things. That is the problem. You see, because you can do all the research and put everything together, and it's there. But would they want to use it, and would everyone be faithful to follow it?
Let me bounce back that problem to you. African leaders and policymakers always say that you see, and I review a lot of manuscripts. Sometimes when I get papers to review, I know that it's an African author. Guess why? He said all the research that's been done in this area has to do with the Western world. This is the first study that takes it from the African perspective. What do you mean first study that takes it from the African perspective? If you produce research by Africans in Africa, using African data with evidence from Africa, and you take it to the next level. It's not just about Professor Hinson. I've been following University of Ghana social media posts in terms of engaging with the media. It's not just doing that. This webinar now, I expect that in 2 days' time, a summary of this will be published in the national newspaper calling government to action. When academics not just write for an academic audience, but actually summarize the key takeaways from that and put in public domain. You're looking at key stakeholders, the media. They're looking at the entire network.
Nnamdi, wait. Say that 15 times again. That summarize and share. Summarize and share.
Summarize and shared, yes, in an accessible manner.
Yes,
Nobody wants to hear terminology.
Like 87 times again. I've said it like 500 times. Nobody seems to get it. Say it over and over again.
Professor Hinson, I hope this is getting recorded. Summarize and share, summarize and share. Can you, you want me to say it 2,000 times?
Yes, please.
Three more, then we can move on.
So Godwin, record that, write it and share it with your colleagues. Because all these conversations we're having, it's not an academic discussion. This is something that affects our entire life, all our lives. It affects us in one way or the other, directly or indirectly.
And the more important point that the gentleman makes, and Professor Madichie, thanks very much for reiterating this point. I think that the bottom line and why he calls for, if you like, a stampede of scholarship on African integration, and I choose my words very carefully, a stampede of scholarship. On
Absolutely, sir. You're right.
That there is a preponderance of evidence, and not just that, but there's a preponderance of advocacy African integration to the extent that it becomes very, very uncomfortable and very painful for any African integration.
Please mute. Somebody is talking there. Prof.
Mute.
So that it will become so uncomfortable for African leaders to assemble and drink tea without action.
Absolutely.
A significant effort. And so for the young scholars here, these are very, very juicy, fertile ideas for you to pick and run with them. But this is exciting. Professor Hinson, please, you have a few more hands on so we can move to the next presenter. Saliu, are you there? Maybe you should go on and ask a question whilst Professor Hinson.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, Prof, I like your passion. It's very infectious. My question is on the invisible hands that are working behind the scenes in order to destabilize integration. We've been hearing and we've been reading, but I'm having to see this in your presentation. Let me use Prof. Hinson's word. I should think there's some preponderance of evidence to suggest that there are some invisible forces behind that are preventing the real integration from happening. Aside our own unique problems of not liking one another, so if my party is in opposition, every single thing that the other party does, I don't like it and I don't want to see it. To what extent do you think such interferences are causing or are preventing real integration on the ground? And what can ordinary citizens like all of us in this webinar do to change that direction?
Exactly, that was the question, yeah.
Thank you, Saliu. In addition to summarize and share, yeah, I hope that has resonated within you. Summarize and share.
Summarize and share is cut off.
Yes. So the invisible hand, look at Donald Trump. Hasn't he tried to reverse everything Obama did? To what avail? To what avail? Now, the problem I'm trying to highlight now, and what really pains me the most, I'm not disrespecting the advice about lockdowns and social distancing, but I know Ghana is open. Why is AFCFTA postponed till 2021? You're talking about invisible hands. That's a visible hand. Why? Why postpone AFCFTA? So those invisible hands will need to spray them and make them more visible. And that's where the voice of those of us on this particular forum and within African higher education institutions need to engage with the media and make those invisible hands either decapitated hands or visible. So I can restore order to that direction of travel. I don't know if that makes sense to you, sir.
Definitely. And Elon, Deborah.
Okay, so good evening, and I think I've been highly inspired by Prof's session, and I like the passion with which he talks about Africa. But then I've noticed that from studies, you realize that Africa, we've come up with so much policies regarding integration when it comes to the sharp regions and Africa as a continent, but nothing seems to be working. And Prof mentioned about multiplicity, fragmentation, and the fact that invisible hands are working behind the scenes. What should we do? I think that's the question my colleague asked earlier. What should we do as individuals? Because if we are going to be depending on these policies that are going to be formulated and still being quashed by the invisible hands, then it means we are not going to see any change. What should we do as individuals to see that, to make sure that the change we are always advocating for comes to see the light of day? Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thanks for repeating your question. Let me be very clear. I don't believe in those invisible hands. They died with Adam Smith. Yeah, the invisible hand of classical economics does not hold in this particular case. Everybody has a sense of direction of travel. We agreed on African integration as a new momentum. It's about getting our hands dirty and making it happen. We've been talking about this for the past ECOWAS, for example. ECOWAS, I'm older than ECOWAS, by the way. ECOWAS was 1975. Yeah, for 5 years old. Yeah, most countries are celebrating almost approaching their 60. How old is Ghana now? 1957. 1957 to now, forget my maths, maybe 63 years?
Yeah, 63.
Yeah, 63 years. Is that a baby? You see, some of these key things, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about coming up with sound academic research that will be mixed up with policy. Many academics are getting political appointments. Where's the invisible hand coming from? Get the work done, provide the evidence, inform policy with those evidence, engage the media, and you realize that there's no invisible hand. You see, don't look and fold your arms. It's not a strategy. And Professor Justice, I'm going to come back to your question about implications for marketing. But let me just be sure that I've addressed this lady's question before we can move on to that.
Sure. Sylvia, would you want to ask your question now?
Yes, Prof. Thank you very much. And Prof, thanks a lot for that very passionate presentation you did. I wanted to ask two questions, but I'll ask the first one and probably the second one later. And my first question relates to the African Free Trade Agreement. So I know for a fact that the trade agreement, as you've indicated, has largely been celebrated. And for that matter, there's huge expectation for its implementation. But we also are aware that it took time for some countries, particularly Nigeria and Benin, to become part of this agreement. In fact, they were the 53rd and 54th countries to actually sign the agreement. And currently, Eritrea is not part of it. The discussion around for which reason Nigeria took time was more like it was trying to think through it, engage stakeholders amongst others. But we also know that Nigeria is the largest, when it comes to the market on the continent. And there's also been conversations about the lack of diversity in the various markets on the continent. So I wanted to seek your thoughts about whether, again, in terms of the implementation, generally your thoughts about the lack of diversity and how it took time for some of the countries to form part of this agreement vis-a-vis its implementation. If you could throw some light on that.
Thank you very much. I like your homework. To pick up the fact that in terms of ratifying the treaty or the agreement, Nigeria was slack, and you said Benin Republic. It's interesting though you mentioned Eritrea. I nearly forgot that was part of Africa. I forgot it was an African country because we're looking at those trading blocks. I don't recall seeing Eritrea in any of those. So no disrespect to Eritrea, but I don't think it's actually Eritrea comes into the equation in this conversation for now. In the case of Nigeria, Nigeria was busy firefighting. In terms of ratifying treaty, for instance, we're not too sure what was happening in that country. There was a time where we were asking to see the president. I say we as a Nigerian. I'm wearing my Nigerian hat right now. Yeah, we're asking to check whether our president was still alive. There's so much opacity in that particular country. So in terms of those decision making and everything, there's so much power struggles and everything. It's not that the country per se did not deem it necessary to ratify those treaties, but there was some degree of confusion until that confusion came to some degree of fruition, and that fruition had to be challenged and championed by academics to make the government realize that, look, guys, there's a deadline here. We need to put a stamp here. Who is in charge here? You know, there was a situation of chaos. Nigeria has been in a very chaotic environment throughout the times of the ratification. Well, it's not too long ago that this happened, probably 2018, 2019. The conversation started around 2018. See how we move swiftly. How many integration efforts? This is, by the way, AFCFTA has been labeled the largest free trade area in the world, in the history of FTAs. So if others took 20 years to be ratified, and this AFCFTA to be ratified under a year, come on, we've got cause for celebration. Sorry, what was the second part of your question?
Well, the second part of my question actually has got to do with ECOWAS. And it speaks to the point you raised about how the regional blocks are not helping with integration. And especially when it comes to ECOWAS, because at some point, even with ECOWAS, we recognize the fact that there was a lot of discussion and criticism also about Morocco wanting to be part of the ECOWAS community. And there were a lot of conversations about as to whether this was necessary, particularly when it doesn't sit within West Africa. So I'm just trying, I wanted to just seek again your thoughts about that, because the arguments that were being advanced by Morocco at the time had to do with the fact that there was a need to enhance partnership among the various countries within the continent. But this was seen differently by different schools of thought. So I wanted to just seek your thoughts again on that in relation to the integration that should be enhanced rather than disintegrating the integration, if you allow me to use those words.
Of course, I'll allow you to use those phrases. Well,
thank you.
The question I want to ask is, what's the option for Morocco? Is it the AMU, Arab Maghreb Union? There are only 5 countries there, and they have issues. One of the key reasons why Mauritania is one of them. One of the key issues why Mauritania left was that he wanted to get close to his Arab neighbors. We have an identity crisis here, identity situation. You see, one of the key, I feel sometimes when I talk about Africa, I tend to be very careful in the use of that phrase Africa, because I'm very tempted to make a distinction between North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. And if you look at North African countries, it's a very interesting political discourse. And again, let me just put the disclaimer here. This is my personal opinion. Yeah, North Africa is neither here nor there. They want to embrace the Arabs who deny, who do not readily accept them, and want to distance themselves from the rest of Africa, arguably sub-Saharan Africa. The North African countries are thriving well, apart from the dysfunctional Libya currently. You have Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, and well, to some extent, Mauritania and Egypt. They have their own issues. So Morocco had issues with Western Sahara because there are secessionist states around there. The politics of it all. But then again, one of the key things is have a good party. If there's a media reports that the DJ is good, there's a crowd and there's enough booze, everybody wants to come to your party. So obviously ECOWAS must be doing something right for Morocco to be part of that government or part of that part of that party. Another interesting illustration I want to highlight here is about the Commonwealth countries. You know about the Commonwealth countries that have been under British rule, have been colonized by Britain. Okay, the Commonwealth countries. You find them in Asia, Pacific, Caribbean, and sorry, African, Caribbean, and Pacific. The ACP countries. They were in the Commonwealth, including the likes of Australia and New Zealand, and Canada. The question I want to ask you is, why is Rwanda a member of the Commonwealth countries these days? That's interesting. Rwanda has no history with Britain. When it comes to that arrangement, it should not, technically speaking, be a member of the Commonwealth, but it is. I don't know if this addresses your question.
It's interesting. The conversation can go on and on and on. And I know that Sylvia is a lawyer, and when lawyers get at it, it can be so I have two more hands up. I will take those together. And then Professor.
Are you sure you don't want to defer, Mr. Dean, so that they can ask it after? Because Dr. Mogaji has been waiting for a long time.
Yes, true. So okay, so let me overrule. Professor Hinson, go ahead. You are the champion.
No, I'm just begging. Lou, we'll call you. Jala will call you.
Prof.
Yes.
Please, some of our colleagues are trying to join, but it is asking for password.
There's no password for the meeting. It's a free to enter meeting.
Yeah, but surprisingly, they're asking for password. I tried on my phone and I was asked for a password.
Okay.
Yes.
So let me see. There's another meeting set up for 8:30. I hope that's not what they are trying to. I understand. Now I need to cancel that meeting. So sorry. I set another meeting that has a password. So that's what, and it's using the same. So that's
okay.
So please pardon me. I made a mistake. I will cancel that meeting soon so you can join.
Okay. So Emmanuel, in the meantime, you can take off, and I wish you Godspeed, sir. Travel well.
That's fine. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
We can, sir.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, it's a pleasure to share this platform with you. Yes, I think like the introduction, this is going to be the second time, but it's always nice to follow this kind of passionate presentation. So Professor Madichie, thank you so much for the efforts and for laying the foundation for this talk. So let me try and share my screen and start.
So whilst Doc is at it, please kindly convey to your colleagues who are struggling to join that they can join now. It's free to enter. They don't need a password. I have set the system right. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Prof.
Yes, thank you so much. So today I will be focusing on marketing higher education post-pandemic. So I guess that's actually my own areas of interest, but it's always nice to share this with everybody, and perhaps there could be some things we can all take away from this. Okay, start my video. So just I think a brief introduction about myself. I'm a lecturer at University of Greenwich. I teach advertising and marketing communication. and also I'm a researcher with interest in higher education marketing. Fortunately, I've been able to publish some journal articles on marketing universities in UK, and also it's been a pleasure working with Professor Insin. We've been able to edit 3 books together on strategic marketing of higher education in Africa, understanding the market, and also exploring student choices. So I think this is quite important. The pandemic has come in a time that, yes, the market is going to change moving on forward. I think it came during, you will expect the sessions to start in September. So that is when new students will come in, and the pandemic actually starts when students are in already. So I think the timing is actually very important for higher education marketers to see how they want to reposition themselves moving on. So just a bit of background. We need to recognize that, yes, the pandemic has redefined higher education, and especially with regards to the way education is being presented. So with the social distancing not allowing people to come together to engage in activities, not allowing them to engage maybe in laboratory works and tutorials and all those things. Often, in most cases around the world, universities face-to-face lecture has been stopped, and teaching have gone online. And it's not surprising as well to see that student expectations are changing. You see students feeling, wow, do I need to even continue studying when I'll be paying so much fees and still be expected to do my lectures online? And also we've got many government policy in place to change, to prepare the university for what's going on. I think I was reading recently about Nigeria, whereby the government has stopped secondary school students from taking the secondary school certificate exam. So you can imagine if secondary students do not even have their ordinary level from WAEC, there's limited chance of them even going to university next year, starting in September. So again, we can see those implications, and also the struggle in adopting technology are coming in from the side of the lecturers who perhaps many months ago, they were not even interested in using technology like that. But now they have been forced to actually use technology. They have been forced to use Zoom and to use Google Meet and to use Microsoft Teams to engage with their students. And also from the side of the students, most of them were not even preparing for doing tutorials, listening to lectures online. They prefer to actually come to class, listen to lectures, and go home. But again, we need to recognize that, yes, this technology has changed the market, and we continue to change it. I think we have this idea that, yes, moving on, some meetings might actually be online. We have to be on Zoom. There's going to be that reduction in some face-to-face meetings. And also, we need to recognize the challenges in emerging economies and developing countries, like in internet facilities, regards to power, regards to the adoption of technology. But among that, I think we also need to recognize the huge opportunities for collaboration and partnership that this pandemic has offered. I've not been to Ghana before, but at least with the help of technology, I'm able to engage with colleagues in Ghana. So I think those are the opportunities that this brings, the opportunity for us to collaborate, to partner together, and to share ideas. So I just want to have a brief discussion about the higher education pre-pandemic and to see how it has changed, because the change is now what is going to affect the marketing. So we've got a product that we are selling before, but because of this pandemic, the constituent of this market has changed. And therefore, that will affect the way in which this product will be marketed. I would say moving on from September. So we think about the product, that will be more of, let's say, you are coming to university to get a university degree. You have a theoretical understanding of what's going on. So the product is still there. And also the price. Perhaps maybe in some private universities, the prices are higher. If you want to travel abroad to study, the price is higher. So the price is still one of something that is still relevant. And also, universities still need to promote themselves, perhaps through prospectus, social media, website, open days. And also we look at the place. In this case, we are talking about the lecture theater, looking at the laboratories for maybe sciences or engineering, looking at accommodation. Those are the things that shape higher education pre-pandemic. Those are the things that make higher education more interesting. So you see people willing to travel abroad, going to Europe, going to America because they want to go and study. And one of those things that attract them is actually the place, is the community, is the fact that you are going to a different environment. And also that's apart, some of those things are also the process. So the process here involves the face-to-face conversation of meeting your professor, having that conversation with your fellow students, going to a drop-in session. If you have any problem, maybe with your referencing or with your assignment, you can go into the library and talk to somebody. You've got your small classes, and also we've got the people. So the people are like the academic reputation of the staff. Like you've got the professors, you've got the visiting professors, and you've got maybe the librarians, the people that can support you, the pastoral care, those people around you that can support you while you are in the university. And also we're looking at the program. So the kind of program that are being offered. So thinking about the range of elective that is on offer, the modules, and also exchange program. So these actually illustrates what higher education is pre-pandemic. And before I go to the post-pandemic, just let us recognize the way this higher education has been marketed. So moving on from my own research, where I've explored the marketing messages of universities, I must say this is actually coming in from UK. So you see universities marketing their location. They tell you we are in a particular city. We have a special location. We have our campus is by the riverside. It's got a very big lawn. You can enjoy yourself around there. You've got social activities. You've got sporting activities. You've got the culture and the population. So these are universities trying to appeal to prospective students, saying, come to our university, let's say in Greenwich. We've got a beautiful campus by River Thames. Come and enjoy sporting activities. Come and enjoy the culture and the activities of in London. So you've got the amenities and the facilities. Then moving on, they tell you about the courses they offer. So they tell you we offer marketing and entrepreneur. We are partners with Chartered Institute of Marketing. We've got teaching staff who are Nobel laureate winners. We've got researchers. So in this case, they advertise their courses. And also they talk about the accreditation and the professional bodies. Importantly as well, the universities recognize student experience in terms of the accommodation. This is actually where you leave your comfort zone, where you leave your parent. You want to go to a place to enjoy, a place that you feel you are independent. And also we talk about these sporting facilities to enhance the student experience, talking about the bursary, talking about religious activities, transportation, and the kind of student support they offer. And also the universities also talk about their credibility. So they talk about their ranking. It could be local ranking. For example, maybe in Africa, it could be, oh, we are the best university in Africa. But also thinking globally, they could now say, oh, we are the top 500 universities around the world. So there's other ranking as well. It could be the research, it could be the sustainability, it could be the student experience. Universities also take pride in their alumni, in the fact that, oh, prime ministers has attended as a university, like what Professor Madichie said about St. Andrews. So you've got university claiming that, yes, prince and princesses have gone through our university, kings and queens have gone through our universities. So these are the ways that universities are marketing themselves. They market themselves also by the global reach. They have their history and their tradition and the prizes and awards they've won. And lastly, This is something that's also relevant for prospective students. Universities try to market their career progression in terms of graduate employability and in terms of industry connection, opportunity for placement, and successful alumni. So I've decided to illustrate these marketing strategies, marketing messages in the context of the market, which is higher education, talking about the product, the place, promotion, people, and program. So moving on, the pandemic is here. So that means everything we've got before is going to change. And in that case, now we can take a look, we can take a backward look and look at this. In the post-pandemic, the product, is it still going to be the same? Yes, we are still going to have higher education, you are still going to have your university degree, but also, how about the price? Would university students be willing to pay the same amount they paid? Let's say they paid £9,000 this year. Would they be willing to pay the same price next year? Taking into consideration that, yes, I will be doing everything online, I will be in my house, would you expect me to pay the same price? Or the university can actually say, you are still getting the same university degree. You are still getting your theoretical understanding. And also we look at the promotion. So the promotion is what I'll be focusing on, moving on in this presentation. But also I want to address the place. So we're talking about the place, we're talking about the communal engagement, we're talking about the lecture theater, talking about the accommodation. Post-pandemic, these things are going to change because everything is now going to be online. Place will no longer be relevant because in most cases, the place will be your bedroom. The place will be your own house. The place will be you in front of your computer. And also we're looking at the process. There will be no face-to-face engagement, perhaps I would say reduced face-to-face engagement with your tutors. We reduce drop-in sessions. If you have problem with your referencing or with any library support, that face-to-face is reduced. And also the people, often everything we're actually going to be online, and also the program. Will we still be running some programs? If a university runs, let's say, microbiology or they run medicine, would they be able to run that using Zoom? Or how can they manage that in a safe environment? We need to recognize that some courses requires you to be present. We can say, let's marketing, you could do marketing online, but look at architecture. Can you study architecture online? You want to have that support, you want to have that, the colleagues and also the feedback on your work. So again, we need to recognize that the program will change. So with the pandemic now, will the location be relevant? So these are the questions we need to be asking ourselves as practitioners, as marketers, especially from higher education. If previously universities have been marketing themselves, oh, let's say come to University of Ghana, we've got 72 acres of land, we've got beautiful accommodation, we've got social activities, we've got sports facilities. Would those messages still be relevant post-pandemic? Because students are not coming on campus to engage in social activities. They're not coming on campus for sporting activities or to enjoy the amenities. So in this case, location will no longer be relevant. Perhaps I would say the creative way in which this location will be presented will be different moving on, because location will actually be your bedroom, location will be your house. And also, when we look at the courses, I was giving an example of architecture, of even art and design, fashion designing. You're looking at some of those creative courses. How would those courses be delivered post-pandemic? Would those courses still be relevant? Would students want to come and study those kind of courses when they know that, yes, everything will be online? So again, this brings challenges for higher education practitioners. It brings that challenges to tutors and to lecturers and to academic themselves to find out, yes, how will I deliver this course online? Then how would I market this course to prospective students? if I'm going to teach students how to design a clothes or apparel on Zoom, how would I want to market this to students? Say, okay, you know what? Come to our university. We will teach you how to design, but actually we'll be doing it online. Would students want to come, or they might want to wait for next year to come for their own course? Perhaps by that time, everything will have been normal. Also, we're looking at the student experience. So one of those reasons why students come to university is because they want to engage, is because they want to feel among, they want to feel, you know what, I'm now an adult. Let me go and explore. Let me see what's going on in this other part of the world. I leave my parents, I leave my friends. I want to go and enjoy what university has got to offer. That is where the accommodation comes in, the sporting facility comes in, the student union comes in. And when you now tell students to engage online, when you now think everything will be online teaching on Zoom and all those things, because of social distancing, because of the fear of the infection, and this student experience will not be there, because often students might be meeting themselves in groups online, but we need to recognize it's not like having that face-to-face meeting, having that meeting up, getting to know your student, getting to engage with yourself, sharing your problems, sharing your concerns, going out for drinks and all those things. Those will not be there. And this will then shape the way universities will then be marketing themselves. It will shape the way higher education will be marketing themselves. And also we'll be thinking of credibility. We'll be looking at the alumni. How will universities market their credibility moving on post-pandemic? How would they be able to position themselves to attract prospective students? For example, now Harvard had said every courses the courses from 2021 will be online. And you feel those kind of university, Harvard, to have taken such a decision. Cambridge in UK as well have taken that decision that says, you know what, everything will be online. But also, like I said, about the courses, about the student engagement, the student experience, how do you marry this together? Your credibility as a university, your reputation, and the student experience that you are providing. And also we're looking at the career progression. So why would a student want to come and study now? Why would a student want to come and do an online microbiology on an online science course whereby the student is doing everything online? Because you are not engaged in that practical setting of a laboratory. You are not smelling those chemicals. You are not meeting people. You are not involved physically. The touch, the presence is not there. What's the career progression? How much have you learned as a biologist, as a scientist? Perhaps if everything is done online. So we're looking at the career progression, what can be done. So I think moving on, we then need to recognize that, yes, we need to market the new market. So in marketing the new market, we need to recognize online education will be something that is very important. And could that form like a custodian? I think Professor Insin shared that on Twitter, which I also engage with. Universities coming together to actually start a program that is being delivered online. But you also then need to ask yourself, why would students want to come to your university? So that is where the marketing comes in. How do we market our online education? Mind you, we've got Coursera, we've got Udemy, you've got all these MOOC courses already there. We've got open universities these universities or this setting are competing with universities that are actually just starting online. So it's left for universities to see, how do we market this new market? So when I say this new market, I mean this new setup of university. A new university setup, a new university structure that everything is done online, a new university structure that doesn't have student engagement, face-to-face student engagement, an online setting whereby students just come in, they engage and they go. So we need to look at how do we market this new market, which first to recognize online education. Secondly, we need to recognize the challenges of lack of engagement with the students. So how do we then package university to appeal to students when we know that, yes, there is a kind of lack of engagement? Is it about the virtual visit we provide for the student? How about the virtual open day? How do we ensure that, yes, what the messages we are sending to students to engage with them? And also in terms of our network and connections. So I was talking about alumni. How do we ensure that, yes, we're building into this network and connection to help the students? Because you want to make sure that, yes, this new market has got a different perspective about the network, about the connection. This new student feels, you know what, I'm coming to university to meet my friends online. I might not see my friend face to face. So how do I really build that network? I'm investing so much money to go to university. I want to build some network whereby I can expand my social network as well. But with these challenges, it's left for university to see how well they can present themselves. And also there's challenges for students' retention in this new market. So we are talking about students that are already within the university system. How do we encourage them to make sure they stay and complete their courses? I won't be surprised if I see students dropping out saying, you know what, I will come back next year, I will come back 2 years' time when things get better. And also, we want to recognize the impact on international students. So for example, you're looking at Harvard. Why would I want to go to Harvard and pay like 40,000 US dollars and everything will be done online? Wouldn't I just do the same and stay in Ghana and study? Or why not just put this money on Coursera and just do some random online courses? And also with this US bringing, trying to ban students coming into their country if their courses are done online. Often we want to think, why do people want to go for international studies? Because they want to expand their network, they want to expand. I summarize this presentation. Is a challenge because we don't know what these new markets really look like. Universities might decide to change their structures, but I propose that, yes, by 2020 September, when the new students start coming in, we will have a better understanding of this new market, and perhaps that will shape our marketing strategies as universities. It will shape the way we actually develop our curriculum to appeal to prospective students. It will shape the way we appeal to students with regards to technology. So I won't be surprised if universities start marketing themselves in terms of the technology facilities they have, in terms of the connections they have, in terms of fast internet network, internet connections they have. Perhaps there will be more virtual visits. So they will tell you, if you can't come for open day, you can explore university virtually. And also for let's say, student engagement, how do we go about that? So this is a summary of my presentation. So in conclusion, I recognize that, yes, the pandemic has changed the higher education market. What we'll be experiencing is different and we most likely remain the same. All stakeholders are aware of these changes and there's need to adjust. Students, we have to adjust. Parents as well, we have to adjust. Parents might need to vacate a room for their children to study. Lecturers, we have to change their online learning. We have to change and adopt technology. Universities, we also have to recognize this. And also from marketing perspective, it is important to market the new market. I said this marketing perspective because this new market has got different perspective to it. You've got the education technology trying to develop some things. You've got the management trying to find out. You've got the teaching bit of it. So this is just a marketing perspective. There will be a new message. And also in that new message, it needs to be effectively communicated. And that will be the end of my presentation. So thank you so much for listening. And I'll be able to answer any of your questions. If you have any other contact, those are my contact details. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor. And
thank you.
This has been exciting. Where I sit, I know that the group of students on this seminar are going to come back at me. We have had conversations earlier before the semester started, and it had to do with a lot of the issues that you talked about, especially issues related to costing and all of that. But it's good that you've given us these, not only the practical perspectives, but also the theoretical issues, and if you like, all of the dimensions that will play out. I have a number of people whose hands are up already. I have Godwin's hand is up, and then Professor Madichie's hands is up. So let's listen to Godwin first. Godwin Aqua, please go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, hello. Doc, very, very wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
My question is got to do with, you see, a lot of the universities or the higher level education, they are pushing the traditional, still the same old traditional advertising and marketing that they used to put on. Mm-hmm. But times have changed, right? Like you were saying, yeah, people are expected to pay a certain amount of money. But I believe that, like Prof. Henson has taught me, that services are intangible, and to make it, for you to be able to sell it, you're going to have to come out, make it tangible in different ways. The universities are not showing that, okay, let's say if you're doing a course like, let's say, mechanical engineering, mm-hmm. What is it that these universities are showing to make a prospective student want to come? Are there any models? What kind of computer technologies are you using? The universities are not coming out to tell us that they are working with maybe software developing companies to come out with innovative things that would help and promote learning. Mm. You see, yes. The universities, I see it that they've always taken a backbencher seat. Okay, they are just sitting behind, expecting that, yes, we are university, so people should come. Mm. But I think that we've gone past that time. And the times that we are in are different times. And just like they expect us that we should sit behind computers and be able to learn and write exams, they should also be able to sit up and do things that would make our learning much better.
Yes.
Let me finish with this.
Okay.
Everything that you've spoken about has been about the university's facilities, about courses and that. But mind you, we don't come to university only to come and learn. Yes. What are the universities doing about the social aspect of it? How are they organizing, let's say, social media events that would get students to come around? What are they doing to get students to socialize? All these things are factors that need to be considered. I think that's my little take that I have to share. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Godwin. It's really nice to get your perspective, especially coming in from the student perspective. I think it's always nice to recognize that. And I think I will start by saying, yes, higher education seems to be relaxed, but you also need to understand the market structure. Often, I would say in Africa, like the demand for university is greater than the supply. So if for example, in Nigeria, you've got limited number of universities and you've got huge number of students. So it won't be surprising for you to see a university who has decided not to really market itself, because they feel even though if we don't market, students will still come. But I also think this pandemic is going to change the market structure, because now students are even more aware. They are more expectant. They know that, yes, things are changing, and they are therefore questioning themselves. But on the side of the university, maybe just to be on their side, we need to recognize that this is something that came up like it was unplanned for. So now universities are going to start making effort to really package a message to appeal to students in that area. And that was why I mentioned...
Don't you think this should have been done by now? And
yes, that's what I'm saying. And that's why I mentioned about the social activities and the student experience. And also you need to recognize that often universities' timetable will start in September. So the pandemic, I think, for example, let me say UK, the lockdown was in March. So by March, the university was almost, for the undergraduate, was almost running down. And the next thing will be university to start again in September. So I wouldn't be surprised that's what I'm saying. These markets is changing already. It's changed. And it's left for universities to see, wow, what do we then need to do?
Doc, don't you agree that I think it's perfect timing? because it happened in March, it gives you a lot of room. By this time, all your messages and your advertising should be out by now, so that people who are deciding can make those choices.
Yes.
I was in a seminar with Prof. Hinson. He gave us a link to a seminar that we watched about what other universities in Africa are doing about the pandemic and the way things have changed. And you should see what the university, I've forgotten the name, Prof, if you can remind me the name, the South African professor. He says the matrices and those things that they are doing. And it shows you that when you go to a university like that, you're going to turn out to be a better person.
Yes, and also that's what I'm saying. We need to also recognize that, yes, the universities have got, it's not just, it's got its own different structure. No doubt, a lot of people are expecting them to have done something. And also, I think we also need to recognize the government policy. So I give you an example of Cambridge, for example. They just decided, I think since last year, saying everything will be online. So that means they can start planning and start disseminating their messages right from that. But some other universities don't even know what to do right now. Some are still thinking of hybrid. Some are still thinking of, oh, can we do some online? Can we do some face-to-face? And with that being sorted out, the marketing messages can't start coming out. I hope you understand that point. Some universities have made up their mind, April, everything is online, so start marketing our online strategies and everything. But some universities are still in doubt, saying things will get better, so they don't even know what to do. But the fact remains that the market has changed. Universities need to take responsibility and start pushing out their message to appeal to students, because by September, students will start making their choices. So I might prefer to go to South Africa, whereby I feel I've seen what they are doing and I'm able to go there. I will enjoy myself, compared to some of that university as well that have not done anything. So I recognize the timing is good, but we also need to recognize there are a lot of, I would say, bureaucracy, a lot of government policy, everything going on that is still part of the dynamics of the market, because most universities are not even really sure of what to do. And if your offering is not solid yet, you don't want to give your message out incongruently. I hope I'm able to clear that part.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Godwin, this is your perspectives are extremely apt, and I hope that I can have some conversations with you afterwards. But
yes, Prof. No worries.
Nnamdi Madichie's hand is up. Prof, you never disappoint. Okay. Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Definitely. Yes, I can hear you, Professor Madichie.
When I put my hands up, I had a question, but I've changed that question into a comment and a response to Godwin for the valuable question he posed. I think Godwin actually took part of my question, talking about the need for engagement with industry, especially for the hardcore subjects like engineering or software computing or even medicine or even hairdressing, anything that has to do with hands-on, not like business and management. We have life easy. We have life easy as business and management. We can be delivered virtually with little or no qualms. And he asked a question. Godwin, I think you were asking Professor Hinson. He probably didn't hear you when you were asking about that South African professor. I'll tell you what his name is. His name is Tawana Coupe. He's the Vice Chancellor of University of Pretoria. Okay. This man is so active on LinkedIn that I wonder when he has time to actually. I don't know if you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tawana Coupe, the Vice Chancellor, University of Pretoria. This guy is so active on LinkedIn, which is very powerful. I think it kind of answers some of the questions that were posed to Professor Mogaji. By the way, Professor Mogaji, thanks for an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
So my question is not really a question, but a comment. Very interesting presentation. But like Godwin rightly pointed out, it took one perspective. You see, yeah. one thing it's about demand and supply. So he looked at the supply perspective. Don't forget that universities and professors and lecturers like us are human too. We understand your needs, but we too, we are adjusting. We're all learning. This is co-creation of knowledge. We're all learning together. So it's good that you mentioned some of those insights on the expectations of students. Number one, the price element is very important. Never, I will not pay the same school fees. Professor Justice, don't expect that same school fees, or if it's going to be online. Major discounts and 5%.
I think that's a different conversation from university's perspective. They tell you you are still getting your university degree.
No, it's not the same. It's not the same because that thing called student experience. I sent a link. Check the chat box. I've been pondering with this element of student accommodation. You cannot be putting students in a poultry. Yeah, you need to give them. You know how my university used to market itself. University of Sheffield and Sheffield Hallam University. They will tell you we are bang in the middle of the city center. Get off the train and you're on our campus. All the nightclubs are free. They accept student ID cards. You name it. So it's not just about the physical infrastructure, but the social infrastructure. Very important points. So those social events, clubs, activities, societies, etc., etc. One of the things I did mention in part of my chart is the need for having those sort of virtual communities. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sheffield Hallam University that I left in 2002 are still in contact with me. University of Sheffield that I left in 1998 are still in contact with me, chasing me up as an alumni to make contributions and donations. They are engaging with me. They are LinkedIn groups for universities. There could also be WhatsApp groups. And where you have interactions. And you know what? You know what's interesting, Godwin, if you can hear me? Godwin Akwa.
Yes, Prof. Yes.
What's interesting is that University of Ghana is engaging with you. University of Ghana has actually answered your question by being on this platform now. What are we doing here? It's courtesy of University of Ghana. This is part of that social environment that you're craving for. So some of these events need to be more regular, need to be more consistent, need to be more engaging and more collaborating. It gives you an opportunity to interact with not just your classmates, but with your professors and potential visiting professors. Platforms like this are very, very pertinent. And don't forget, what was that? Summarize and what? Share. Summarize and share. Yeah. Online, offline, online, offline, and everything in between. Very important. And finally, sorry, somebody's interrupting me. Please, IT manager, please mute everybody. Let me finish this point. Hello.
Yes, now go ahead.
Right, thank you, sir. Finally, very important point that this Godwin man, Professor Justice, I need to know who this Godwin guy is, because it's very important point the guy raised. He just took all my questions away from my mouth. You see, that engagement with industry, it also links back to that summarize and share. University of Ghana is engaging with graphic online or graphic newspapers, whatever it is. I saw Professor Hinson wearing his mask with the Vice Chancellor, signing MOU with the graphic. Yeah, you need to engage with industry. Very important. Industry needs academia as much as academia needs industry. You need to bring industry into the university environment, and of course, make your graduates work ready. It's not about giving them certificates with all the theory and everything, and they come to the workplace and they ask you, where do I put this plug? Where we switch. How do I turn this light on? That's not what you need. You need people that are ready to be part of the workforce. So if you're not talking to employers and industry as a university, you're failing. And it's even more important right now. So some of those key things, when it comes to hands-on courses or curricula, for example, if it's engineering, if they're open for business and university is not open for business, send your student there, go and monitor them there, if they can ensure that they have those social distancing measures in place. This is very important. Engage with industry and practitioners. bring practice into academia and make sure that you bridge the gap between theory and practice. That is one of the key things that students, that's the core product. That is the core product. Don't forget that the other elements of the marketing mix, going back to Professor Mogaji's presentation, where you highlighted the 7 Ps. Yeah, you talked about the process, the price. Of course, the price is a very tricky one. Yeah, and Professor Justin is not particularly keen about that. But you see, the product, for you to demonstrate, I'm not lying now, Prof. So for you to demonstrate that your product is still worth the value proposition that it's supposed to be, engage. This is the time to engage with industry. Very, very important. That's me done. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor Madichie. You never disappoint. So I still have a few hands up. So Lucy hasn't spoken yet. So let me give Lucy opportunity first before I come to Saliu. So Lucy, please go ahead.
Prof, can I ask my 2 questions from the first one and the second one?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Is still here.
This is my first question will go to Professor Nnamdi. He was talking about COMESA, IGAD, and EAC, where he was able to elaborate the integration points by one particular country. And we realized that that country its entry points are different from all the treaties. What are we, the academians, doing to let the country know that you are doing about 5 different integrations, treaties, but your integration points are so different from each of them? Is there something that we are doing wrong in this one? Or what they are doing? What are the countries looking at it? Because I like the way he came about it, but I don't think our countries are looking at all the treaties we have signed among ourselves and seeing that our integration points have deviated, meaning that some of them we are integratable, others we are not. So I don't know how the academia are going to send that out to the countries, or something that will come up for them to understand that we need to be on one point, because looking at all those 3, if Kenya is on different 3 integration points, I think it means that something is wrong somewhere, or the treaties are not being properly looked at. My second thing to him is that I know he said some of the things we did were inborn, and it's like from old, so it's difficult for Africans to change. Yes, I have a problem with Ghana that we changed our currency from 2007, and it is about 14 years on, but people still go back to calculate our currencies in the old currency, which make the whole country very, very confused. Because if we are talking about 5,000 Cs now, somebody is asking, is it 500,000? So the whole thing is, all of us are confused with this currency over 10 years or past on. How are we going to get it right so that everybody will be at par? Because if we keep on dwelling in the past, it makes it very difficult for us to move on.
Thank
that
you.
Is my question. And then my question to Professor Emmanuel.
Yeah.
He is talking about universities don't know how to do. Universities are supposed to be the training ground for us to be able to go back to our workforces to work. If the universities have not been able to take this pandemic and know that, look, we need to switch quickly, because in this marketing world, demand and supply, demand is higher than supply. It doesn't, with the educational backgrounds, now we're not working, because if you look at other training bodies that have come, when you are in the industry now, people are not so much looking at the academic results you have. They want to know how experienced you are and how you can perform. And this, educational certificates are now surpassing the university entries for you to get a master's or a PhD to be able to work, because the short courses are empowering workers to be able to perform their work better, because those courses make it feel like hands-on, how to get to know. So if the universities, which is supposed to be competing with those people, giving us the industrial and then educational training to be able to improve on our work, is not going to catch up quickly. And those people, if you go onto the internet, they are in there training people on how to manage yourself during COVID, how your outfit should work, the layouts you should do. And the university, which is treating academic work, is not ready to switch to be able to follow the level of what is happening, and they don't know what to do. I feel there's a problem somewhere. That is my comment.
All right. Okay. So thank you very much. Let's take a few more. So Professor Mogaji, are you writing your points so that we can take a couple of them? So you can.
Yes, I am, yes.
Please. So, Salu, so you can go on and ask your question now.
Yeah, thank you, Dean. Great presentation, Doc. There's always the debate of the disconnect between academia and industry, and this debate is very rife in Africa. With a little study that I've done out of here, a lot of the innovation that happens in the West, in Europe or America, actually emanates from the university. So if you look at Facebook, Zuckerberg and his colleagues developed it from their student dormitory. A lot of the innovative products and services were actually developed by universities. I fortunately participated with the educational tour that the UGBS organized in January in some American universities. Now, when you go into those universities, and even with the social sciences, so if you take MIT, for instance, they have a huge lab that is geared towards churning out products and services that is in humanities and business-related areas. Now, if you flip that to our context in Africa, so let me speak about University of Ghana, that is what I'm familiar with. I think that's the point that all my previous colleagues have been trying to highlight. We don't tend to see that kind of ingenuity. We don't tend to see that kind of drive. We don't tend to see that kind of connecting what's happening in academia into what's happening in industry. We had this debate a couple of days ago on one of our classes, and I said, look, whatever that's happening in industry today has a very solid theoretical foundation in academia. But unfortunately, we don't tend to see that when we are students. Could it also be an issue of lack of, let me put it, practical capability from academia for them to appreciate that although I'm teaching you the theoretical base to, let's say, your 4 Ps or your 7 Ps, this is the practical implication of all those things. Could that be one of the challenges that we are facing? Because I think this is a particular problem for African universities. I don't see that with the European or the American universities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Elom, will you want to ask your question now, Deborah? So that we...
Yes, Prof. Mine is not a question, but then it's a quick contribution. I am more from the administration background and not necessarily marketing. And I'm looking at the fact that we all are talking about marketing and making sure that we put out measures that would encourage people to come back to school and all that. But the sophisticated marketing that we are talking about to come up with a lot of costs, which we should be thinking about how people are going to afford. And I think Doc mentioned about the price and the fact that it's a quite complicated one. So as we are talking about the sophisticated marketing measures that should ensure that people get back to school after COVID and all that, we should also be thinking about cost. Are people able to afford all that we are trying to market to them? What end does it lead to if we market and then people are unable to afford and come back to school? So we should look at the blend between marketing and then ensuring that when we market, people are able to afford and come back to school so that we can acquire the knowledge that we need in order to implement out there. That's my suggestion.
Great, thanks very much. Winston, I'll come to you. Let me allow our guest professors to respond to the questions that we have. First, to Emmanuel, Dr. Mogaji, if you can answer the questions that you noted now, and then I'll go to.
Thank you so much. I think that's from Lucy first. I guess firstly, I need to acknowledge that this presentation is not really focused on higher education in Europe or higher education in Africa. So I guess I must need to acknowledge that, because I think often we want to compare the standard of Europe or America with Africa. So like I said in my introduction, we did a book on higher education in Africa, so with Professor Insin. So I recognize the challenges in higher education in Africa. But I guess my presentation was more of an overview of what the new market will be like. And this new market is also involved, carries on either you are in Europe or you are in Africa. So I think the first question I got was not doing well to really engage with the students. So I think that's something that we've really discussed. I think Professor Madichie has also tried to explain that further in terms of the student engagement and in terms of the way universities might want to engage with students. So that's just what I was able to get from that illustration, and that's my own answer for that. And also for Sally regarding challenges of African universities not aligned with the industry. I think that's an inherent problem with African universities. We need to also recognize I would say the vested interest. So who is controlling the university, who is controlling the policy? So the point is, what is that feed? What's that channel that leads from what we are producing in university to what can go into the policy? Who is giving us the policy? Like, I think it's also Professor Madichie that said about John Hopkins giving us information about social distancing. So the point is it that universities in Africa are not considered good enough to give us policy to shape the industry, or actually African universities are not good enough? So I guess those are the things we need to recognize, that yes, some people in the industry need our information, but how are we prepared as a university to do it? I was reading something about one disease that affects pig farms in Nigeria. They said that disease has been affecting that pig farm, piggery, for 25 years. And I wonder, you mean for 25 years, those people who owns the pig farm cannot invest money in a university and say, guys, help us find a solution to our problem? So the point now is, if the industry comes to you, we have a problem, are universities in Africa capable of finding that solution? So again, that is when we then need to ask ourselves, why are they not capable to find that solution? Is it because of the human resources? Is it because they don't have the financial capabilities? Is it because they don't have the resources to do that? So I guess those are the things that we need to ask ourselves, and also challenge those who are in the leadership, saying, okay, what are we doing to position ourselves? People out there need our information. You also look at journal publication. How often are Africans being able to publish in journals outside Africa that can even shape things? So why are they not being able to publish outside? Is it because they don't have the capability, or is it because they can't go through that rigor? Or it's not just there. So the point is, we need to recognize there is a challenge, but I see universities springs around, like small bits around. I think South Africa are doing a bit to really come up with that. But I think we need to recognize there is that limitations, there are challenges with higher education in Africa itself, which is affecting how much they can give to others, which is affecting how much they can give out. And for Deborah's question, I think again, I will go on Professor Madichie's comment about the cost. So we are talking about marketing the new market. That is, this is a new higher education. Some people will say this new higher education should still be the same. We should still charge you for what we were charging you previously. But now the point is, every dynamic in that market has changed. The delivery has changed. Would we still be selling the same higher education at the same price? Because Deborah is thinking it might be expensive. I don't think it will get expensive. I even think it might be subsidized. It might be cheaper. Because now with people raising concern that I can't pay the same amount I paid for last year for the same course again. But I think the challenge will be the short courses, the online courses that can come in to really to fill that gap, while universities are still lacking behind to prepare themselves. So I don't think university education will be expensive going on. I think it might remain the same, but also possibly it could be cheaper, with students looking for alternatives, with students not willing to pay £9,000 with students not willing to pay the full amount, I think that can change the pricing dynamics in higher education. I hope I've been able to answer your question, Deborah. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Let me go to Professor Madichie for his the questions that went to him. My friend, are you there?
Yes, I'm back. Yes, sorry, I don't quite remember the question that was thrown at me.
It had to do with Lucy asked about the
Kenya and different
areas. The integration points for our analysis of the integration points with Kenya on COMESA, IGAD, and EAC.
Oh yeah. Lucy, I don't know how rich you are, but do you have a credit card?
I do have a credit card, but I'm not rich.
Right, okay, and you have bank cards?
Yes, I do.
Right, how many bank accounts do you have?
A few, but I maintain only 2.
Sorry, how many do you have? A few, but you maintain?
Only 2.
Only 1 or 2. Kenya has, just like you, Kenya has many bank accounts, but they maintain 1 or 2. They need to make a decision of which one they maintain and which one their salary gets paid into. So that multiplicity is what causes the confusion. How do you keep a tab on your bank accounts when you don't have a main bank account and others are just secondary bank accounts? And think about it. Do you need those secondary bank accounts? I don't know if that analogy works for you.
Not really.
Sorry?
Not really.
Right, okay. So the point is this. You cannot have your hands in every possible basket that is out there. You don't join blocks just because you can. You need to look in terms of what the requirements are for joining the blocks, the trading blocks. If it's the EAC you want to stay in, or if it's COMESA you want to stay in, and check that, and to make sure there's no role duplication. Look at what your capabilities are, what your expectations are in terms of your commitment to that particular block, and what the benefits are, and your primary purpose of being a member of that particular block. You cannot join every possible party just because you hear music. You just jump into the venue and start dancing away. So what needs to happen for regional trading blocks is to get rid of those duplications, because you cannot be a jack of all trades and a master of all. So focus on what your ultimate goal is, bearing in mind your affordability, what it is that you seek to achieve, and of course, how you're going to measure that. And most importantly, you think also about your political will to engage and make that difference. Still not answered?
It's answered, but my other question is, you had a good eye to notice this, and the academics have a very good eye to notice these flaws. I know approaching the government to sell to them is a bit difficult, but how are we trying our best to make sure that they see what the countries are doing to harm ourselves in these situations? Because if we only analyze and we teach, and it doesn't get to them for them also to have a second look at what they are doing, it is left on their decks and not being implemented. So that is my question. So how are we trying? How best is the academia trying their best to make sure that the government and the countries get to know that, look, this is what you have done. Look at all these points. You see the differences. How we go, like you've explained it to me. I want to know how we get to them. That is my issue.
Yeah, I think it was in one webinar that was at yesterday where somebody from Ford Foundation was there, somebody from many of these US foundations, where I can't quite remember the details now. One of the key things that somebody did mention something about professor of practice. So a professor of practice, if you look at, there's professor of marketing, professor of business, there's also professor of practice. Professor of practice is more like a non-traditional professorship where you bring somebody with extensive knowledge in industry that probably doesn't have that level of academic qualifications, and make them part of the university. So this is a kind of a bridge between university and industry. And it goes back to what we discussed already today. Summarize and share. Summarize and share. So one of the key elements is that academics or academia or universities need to crash the party of policymakers. Yeah. So number one, get policymakers to be part of maybe honorary professor at the university, that to provide 1 or 2 guest lectures within the university, and make sure that you also can crash their party. So that sort of symbiotic relationship is appropriate, is a sure first step. It has been happening across universities. We have seen that happening, but more needs to happen. It needs to be more structured and better articulated and institutionalized. We have seen that happening, especially in these COVID times, especially within the schools of health or biochemistry or whatever the case is, when it comes to making PPEs and sanitizers, etc. But it needs to be an institutional wide activity and event. I don't know if that comes anywhere close to answer your question.
Sounds very close. My other observation is that when academia finish doing their research, when we are sending it out, it's very voluminous. Those of us who work in the companies, you know that when you send a very lengthy thing to your boss, you might end up not reading it. So you have to make sure it is pragmatic. Most of the points has to be, as you said, summarize and share.
So you've answered your question. Summarize and share is the point. That's what we're talking about. That's what we've been thinking now.
Recently, one of our lectures, somebody said they had an industry conversation. They did the document, and the industry didn't come back to them.
Yeah, when will they come back to you when you're speaking technical jargon?
Once they sent to them was so huge that and so voluminous that they wouldn't have time to make. Because
how can you send them a thesis? Look, yes, CEOs want half a page of your 500-page document. What are the key points? Give me that in 5 lines. You wrote 500-page document and somebody is telling you, give me that in 5 lines. Yeah, how do you think presidents make speeches and claim that there's weapons of mass destruction somewhere? It's from a 50,000-page document. They'll tell you redacted version. It's not just redacted, majorly summarized. So when you're actually trying to disseminate an academic piece of work with all your references and statistics and calculations and iterations, etc., what is your point? Many journals, especially in the hello, are we still here?
Yes, you are here. I'm just a lot of the things you've been talking about, so what I have just done now.
Yeah, look at Galamsey Menace, yeah.
Yeah, what we call the policy briefs. The University of Ghana Business School, for example, has policy briefs on every topic that faculty publish. And these are summarized into, you can see.
This is what I'm talking about. Thank you, Prof. You guys are on key. Yeah, please share this with me.
Let me share the next one. The next one is the UGBS Alumni Network. UGBS is subscribed to Graduate. Graduate is that global platform for universities across the world where their students and faculty can and alumni can interact. UGBS is subscribed to Graduate, and we have been struggling to get our alumni to enroll. Our alumni will enroll, nobody interacts, nobody chats. Our alumni office has been struggling to get to enroll.
To get people to engage.
Yes, for those of us who are here, apart from your WhatsApp platforms, we have Graduate that I pay $5,000 annually and more just to keep subscription, so that our students can engage. Our students aren't engaging. A lot of the points that were made, and we have had a lot of conversations, especially with this group. The disconnect or the relationship between working students, so students who are professional workers working every day and are also schooling, and globally everywhere. And I go to Manchester University every day. Manchester University is the 34th university across the world. I go there every year to teach. I have students who are working. The engagement is completely different. I see here we have students. A lot of our students are graduate working students. The danger or the difficulty has been this pressure to get students to engage rather than just come into a lecture and write an exam and get a certificate. We have sessions and seminars such as these ones, even physical ones. You struggle. Many occasions I have had to stop students. I go and I stretch my hands off and I say, no, you are not going. Please go into the auditorium and listen to a presentation. Sometimes you go to town, struggle to bring industry key players, people who are very difficult to find, to come around. You struggle to get students to come in and listen to the presentation. Come on. So I hear when I hear the story about, you know, providing platforms, creating engagement, and doing all of that, and we have tried over the years to do that, then it pinches me. But I think the message that I hear from my students today is that we have to keep doing more and doing more. Just so before we go on, Professor Madichie, I'm showing you here now the gross tertiary enrollment for Africa. And please, if you were to go further, you will see gross per capita expenditure in sub-Saharan Africa on education, and you check that across other regions. Check especially the Asian tigers, and see how much funding goes into universities. And let me just show you one more thing before I go. This program is in the University of Manchester, Alliance Manchester Business School, right? The program is called Corporate Communication and Reputation Management. Check the fee for international students, and it's a 1 year. Wow. 19,500 pounds for a 1 year program. I used to charge 10,000 cedis for my 2-year MBA program. That stopped. My fee currently, if you convert it into dollar terms, it comes something like $5,000 or $6,000 for a 2-year MBA program. Now, compare how you make investments into things with this kind of so there are several dynamics here, and I want my students to keep challenging us, because that is the only way we will push the frontiers of knowledge. But
Prof, sorry to interrupt you. And look at the average class size here, 61 average class size. Yes, for 20K.
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
Now this is even, you go to the North America, and for example, in Korea, one of our colleagues, a dean of the Korean University Business School, they charge $54,000 for a 15-month MBA program. I am telling you the truth. Check across. Wow. Check Lagos Business School. Check the fee for Lagos Business School. You will see how much you pay in Lagos Business School for a 3-semester MBA program. So the variability and the costing are completely different. So when my students came to me this semester, when we were moving online, and said, "Oh, can we get rebates?" Then question. You know, this is going to be a tough conversation to have. And guess what? You push that conversation, and no professor in the university, either your provost or your pro-vice chancellor or your vice chancellor, wants to listen to the conversation, because we are already operating from ground zero. So the dynamics are quite difficult to deal with. But as I say, let the students keep interrogating and challenging us. That is the only way we can get better. But we would in turn challenge them and make sure that we push them a bit. And when we do, they should bear with us, because until the wood goes through that high, sandpaper pain, it never becomes beautiful. So when we're pushing them a bit, they should bear with us, because that is the only way we can get them to get to that point where we would. But my last point, they are going to be finishing school now. They are going to be the captains of industry. You made a point. Please invest in the university. I took over last year, and I have been able to get only 2 of my alumni donating 350,000 Ghana cedis, another one giving us 700,000 cedis to develop our data lab and our incubation and innovation center. So come next year, we are going to have a place, and I'm looking for our students to support us so we can provide support to budding entrepreneurs, people who want to do things out there and break barriers and stuff like that. We need that support. Otherwise, the money that I get is just to keep facilities and maintain facilities. I'm not able to invest in anything. So those are the challenges that from where I sit, you face. But as I say, we are here to fix problems, not to complain. So we will keep pushing. Thank you very much.
So
Professor Justice,
not expecting a reduced fees now.
Okay.
Professor Justice, this is very articulate. But you see what you've just said now. You too. Let me tell you now. Summarize and share. Yeah. So these things need to be communicated honestly, because one of the key ways, if you cannot reduce the school fees, you see that pricing issue is very important. If you cannot drop the price, what you need to do is to add value to the product.
Absolutely.
And communicate that value. Absolutely. You see, guys, we will not be cutting down our school fees, but in addition to what you would have normally got, you will get X, Y, and Z. So please don't moan about the current fees. So those are sort of things that you summarize and share.
So I have one more hand. Lawyer, okay, you have dropped your hands. I think we should.
I had my hand up, but I think I've dropped it because the. Sorry?
Lawyer, were you going to say something?
Yes, actually, I was going to ask a question about strategies towards financially sustaining higher educational institutions. But I think the conversation as it went kind of gave a sense of what it would look like. So I decided to drop my hand.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I thank
Professor Mogaji didn't answer my question. My question was supposed to be for, we have, when we are in a corporate, he was talking about higher education. Yeah, investors also do higher education. My problem is that companies, now you have companies coming crisscrossing from other countries to come and do professional short courses, which helps, workers or employees to be able to improve on their work schedule and also to get promotion. These people are competing with the mainstream universities in every country have. If we have working engineering company, we have companies from Singapore or Dubai forcing to come and do short courses here and go where even workers, when they take it across Ghana. So what is the competition at the university to be able to compete from those areas? Because those ones are very, very practical training, and industry is now, accepting and recognizing those certificates very faster than even the higher education we get later on to bring on board, because they see it as a very practical training for the job. So is it the education is just like an introduction to the subject, but those people come with technical training towards your main job. What are the universities doing about it? What do you think is better for you to also strategize to be able to, enter that market and make some money out of that market? That is what I was asking. Maybe I didn't.
Let me understand your question. So we have two scenarios now. Do you mean people who are already working in the industry coming to university to top up to do some short courses, right?
Yes.
And
I am here as most of us on this platform are all working. All of us are workers, all right? We have come to get higher education. But here
not all of us are working.
Oh, you are working, shut up. You are a CEO of your own company. So most people come in here to come and get additional information to improve on our work, on already what we are doing, or to change our, industry that we are in.
Okay.
And then here are other companies that crisscross who are running short. I can go and sit in for 6 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month and get a very solid certificate, which can move me up in my, my work succession plan, move me to a different level of my corporate. And when we come to academic, we spend like 1 year or 2 years in doing the same thing. But if you look at our courses in academia and you look at those short courses, those are very, very practical to your work than the academic work. And I have seen somebody who has been an MD because he had about 80 short courses, which made him very, very, he knew almost everything he needed to do in the bank.
Right.
So what are the academic doing to look at that area, to capture that area? Because now with the online courses, those people have already swapped, they're already training. PHR has told his students that they can write exams online, which has immediately COVID came, we started writing exams online. So what are we doing as the academic level to also capture that area so that people will be able to want to do their short courses with you and also know that I will improve in my office work.
Lucy, please summarize.
Okay. I don't know if you can see the screen. At least this is from University of Ghana.
I was going to say the same. I was going to say whether she was watching the screen at all.
Yeah, and I think I
wasn't watching. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think I've tried to answer it before. Like, yes, so we are saying the short courses provider are competing with university. That's all right. That's part of the dynamics of the market. But firstly, you've seen universities also coming up with their own programs. So that is one. And also the universities can also sell the fact that they've got the university's credibility to it. They've got the researchers on board coming as well teaching. So I think universities have a better option, a better market, rather a better product, if I may put it that way. And I think I've shared it in the comment
reputation
about the fintech from Oxford University. So Oxford University is doing a 10-week course for fintech. So the point is, universities have a better product in terms of that. They've got the reputation, they've got the credibility, and also they've got the structure to support it. So I think universities recognize that competition. We can't remove them. We can't tell them not to do their short courses. But I think universities are recognizing that. And as you can see from the screen, University of Ghana is doing something like that. They market it, and they can also be the competition from that. So I think I will leave it to the dean to also provide more insight on that.
Sitting from my table as an HR,
yes,
I get requests from outside the country that I have to took me a while to find GIMPA, knowing that those time GIMPA was doing short courses. If we make it very accessible for us to be able to find, I was a trainer, I research,
Lucy,
I look for trading courses. I don't find this. This is the first time I'm seeing this, so I look for it again. I'll just send it over.
Can I just chip in? Can I just chip in, Lucy?
All the time.
I'll find it. So it's okay. I'll end here. I'll look for
Lucy,
it.
can I just chip in?
Yes.
I don't know what organization you work for, but how do you vet and verify those so-called certificates that made that person the manager that he was? Does he have a formal degree?
Yes.
Does he have formal qualifications? What are the entry requirements? Okay. Yeah, what are some of those? Those are what I call icing on the cake. You see, all these short courses are icing on the cake. You need the cake to start with before you start to dress up that cake. Yeah. I also have a short course I completed online in COVID times, and I have a certificate for that. But that alone will not give me a job somewhere. I have degrees. So that is icing. That is CPD. Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And there's something also called micro-credentials that universities in the UK have started embracing. And I'm sure there are variants. It goes by different names in different other contexts. It's even shorter than the short courses that is on the screen here. Yeah, the micro-credentials are bite-sized qualifications. And you know what? They're not even icing. They are candles on the icing on the cake.
Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, this conversation can go on and on. The class that is part of this discussion today, it's a very, very interactive and chatty class, and we can go on and on and on. The good thing I want to say, and which is the point that we make, is that we've seen a multiplication of these agencies. Many of them do not have credibility. There are some people who provided training in 2018, and if you want the organization again just to validate your certificate, they do not exist. So it is important. Yeah, important. But the reality is that Lucy makes a very important point. We are in Ghana. Why can't they find us? Why aren't we bombarding them with information and all of that? And it's been one of the things that I have been struggling with my executive development office. I have 3 strong men working there, supervised by a lecturer, and the lecturer has been, we've been struggling to get them to be working in the way that will let the society see them and to be able to enroll in some of the courses that they have. But let me end here. The conversation can continue forever. But I want to thank our 2 presenters this evening, Professor Madichie Nnamdi. He was in Ghana and said he just left.
Yeah.
We chewed guinea fowl together. He would usually push
I think
with a bottle of Guinness. As for me, I'm a pastor, so I don't add. But it was a nice time having him around for 1 month. Professor Mogaji hasn't been to Ghana. We will try and get you to Ghana. And
COVID.
Absolutely. But when I'm next in the UK, I'll look for you so we can catch up. But we appreciate you spending your evenings with us and engaging us. For our participants, I want to say a very big thank you to all of you for coming. At some point, there were up to about 85 people, and many people have gone. So I estimate that about 120 people would have passed through this seminar today, and it's very exciting. But I am leaving my Malcolm's group with the very powerful statement that has been made today: summarize and share. The important thing is that we are summarizing and we are sharing. So as you can see on the screen again, the previous sessions that we have had have all been summarized and shared on our platform. So we are summarizing and sharing. I guess what we need to do is to hook it up on our social media handles.
Social media, that's it.
Those of you here, please follow our social media handles, UGBS, and then UGBS alumni, and then the University of Ghana. You can follow me. My Twitter handle is Justice Baole, so you can get me there, JN Baole. You can follow me on Twitter. Facebook, I am Justice Baole. You can see that. My Facebook is full, but you can follow me. And then you can get some of the information that we can be sharing. But I thank you very much for this evening, and we appreciate all of your time.